Okay, it's Thursday, October 20th. This is a SPY recap, and you can see here we actually had an outside day, a 3-bar, breaking the highs of the previous day and then ultimately breaking the lows of the previous day, closing near the lows. So at this point, just on its own, we have to look at this as a failure to the upside, closing near the low, anticipating lower prices tomorrow. At that point, you're kind of broadening out on a very short-term basis. Just like here, this was a broadening out bar for these 3 days. Broadening out means, is it possible to continue? Certainly. Is it possible to continue, try to continue and fail? Certainly. Things aren't that clear, in terms of what's really going on. If I look at the weekly chart, we had a 2-up week. It looked like today might be the day to really, with 2 days left in the week, to get up there, but that failed. So now we're sitting here kind of up on the week, but very neutral after an attempt to bounce off those lows. Monthly chart is still just a neutral bar that's sort of just chopping around after this big red bar. So that's what's going on now. I mean, it's pretty obvious. You see this shooter bar here on the weekly chart, then we get kind of a hammer bar. Now we're developing a shooter bar. So we're just chopping around, and that's what's happening. And it's a little tough to really know where the next sustained move is going to go, but that's fine. In terms of, once you know that, at least you can then begin to just kind of judge each day's action on its own. Look at little targets in the short run, see if those targets fail or hold. So when we look at it that way, this morning was a pre-market range that was sort of inside of the previous day here, and then it started with a nice up bar, and I posted videos how I bought calls here, and we moved up very strong from the start. So there was plenty of opportunities to take gains or set up a no-risk trade and all kinds of things, and then it immediately reversed, I shot a video showing we came to the halfway point of the prior bar after trying to break out to the upside. That's a 2-up failure, and that gave you an opportunity on the day anyway to kind of expect the continuation of the downside. So it was actually a pretty easy day in terms of getting in at the right times and having opportunities for either profits or no risk at all. So that's kind of good. Now the question is, where do we go tomorrow? So tomorrow we play the same game, and if it breaks lower, we do know we have this gap in here to fill, possibly. And then at that point, we kind of probably have an opportunity for a nice trade into that. The question is, do you get continuation or failure from this gap? Because it could be a point where you meet some potential buying, but you just have to monitor the price action. So that's where we're at in this environment at this point. I mean, I could show you all kinds of short-term higher highs and lower lows, little broadening actions in the short run, chopping around. No one really can figure out, the next sustained move. But in the meantime, there have been pretty clear, trade opportunities to set up no-risk trades to see if, like today, to get long and see if you had a breakout to the upside, which I kind of was expecting when the day started, taking out this bar, taking out this bar. Anytime I see a failure, I have to say that's a failure, and now on the next low down, I'm going to start targeting next lows along the way. And the next obvious low is into this gap. So we'll see what happens. We'll have to see tomorrow how the week ends up. If it becomes an obvious shooter bar, then we're going to expect lower prices into next week. And again, you set up your expectations. That's all fine. You kind of know where targets are. But in the end, it all comes down to the intraday structure, how price opens, and then the structure that develops from there. And in this case, I'm going to call this a failure to the upside. I'm going to expect continuation lower. I'm going to monitor this gap in terms of how price reacts to it. Again, the failure would be something like you come down there and then come back to the pre-market, the intraday highs, but we'll see if that happens. But until that happens, I'm just going to expect continuation lower, and then see if this week really ends in a type of a shooter bar that can continue lower into next week and into the month, ahead.